think one thing that people, don't quite understand about Bunker is it does have the exploration potential, but this thing is ready to go back into production, and we're serious about it.
Okay, well, last time I checked, my name was David Morgan, but I'm not so sure anymore. So I'm supposed to host this, and usually I have a little cheat sheet here, but they're all Silver Valley miners, but I'm going to have to tell you one of my, I guess it's story 4,167. But Ray DeMott and I started the Silver Summit years ago, and I think it was about the fourth year we had the Center of the Universe party, and it was all based on the silver miners in the Silver Valley. And I have to tell you, it was one of the most fun events I'd ever been to. Some of you are about my age. Did anybody out there remember Professor Irwin Corey, or Corey? It was a character that was on TV. I forget what it was, what station or whatever, but it was just a nutty professor. So this guy got up that did that kind of an imitation about this has got to be the center of the universe because if it can't be disproven, it's obviously proven, and therefore, it just was a speech that just had everybody laughing. So, in Wallace. So this guy's been to 14 Silver Summits. I've only been to 10. No. I've been to them all. Anyway, enough about me. My joke didn't go over too well. John Swallow, New Jersey Mining. I'm not going to say any more than that. Just pick up the mic and tell us who you are, how you're affiliated with New Jersey, and go from there. I'm just going to get on the table if that's okay with you guys. And then if we have time left, we'll just take questions.
Sure. My name is John Swallow, CEO of New Jersey Mining Company. We're probably, oddly enough, probably the largest gold producer in the state of Idaho, probably because we're one of the only gold producers in the state of Idaho. So our mine is the Golden Chest Mine. We actually we have operations up by Murray, and our mill is just outside of Kellogg. So we've actually got about 40 guys that work for us. Most of them are related, which is actually a good thing, and it also helps with management. But we also have a rare earth division, and that's kind of exciting for us. We added a couple of nationally recognized rare earth properties down by Salmon, Idaho. So, there you go.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Hi, I'm David Wiens, CFO of Bunker Hill Mining, same one that's on all of your lanyards, and we're very pleased to have sponsored the conference this year and have made an appearance as a hometown participant. So I assume most people in the room know the Bunker Hill mine, but those that don't, it is the largest mine in the Silver Valley, produced for about 100 years, prolific producer of about 160 million ounces of silver over that period. It remains, despite being the most productive by tonnage, is the shallowest of the major silver mines, which is pretty exciting because certainly the exploration potential is wide open at depth. So we just released a PEA, and in fact last week upgraded that PEA by 42% based on further optimization over the last few months, with $143 million NPV, 11-year mine life, and here we are sitting at a $25 million market cap, and we plan to be in commercial production in a couple of years. So we think it's certainly a pretty exciting and unique story to be introducing and reintroducing for a lot of investors who knew this story previously. And so, many thanks to those of you that have come up to the booth. I'm very happy to speak with any of you. And we had a really good mine tour a couple of days ago. And if you're interested, we're always happy to host, in particular, locals. So thank you for the opportunity.
So I'm Russell Lawlar, CFO at Hecla. So Hecla's got 2 silver producing mines in the U.S. Lucky Friday, kind of just up the road. Call it a 3.5 million ounce producer a year. It's a growing production as we go deeper. We anticipate that should get to 5 million in a couple of years based on the grade. We also have our Alaska, the Greens Creek mine. It's anticipated to produce around 10 million ounces this year. We also have then Casa Berardi mine in Quebec as well, which is a gold mine. Between our silver properties, we produce around 40% of the silver that's produced in the U.S. We've been around for 130 years, been on the New York Stock Exchange for more than 50. Pay a dividend. The dividend's 2 components. One is a minimum dividend. It's $0.015 a year, and then a silver-linked dividend that starts to pay out at $20.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name's Brandon Rook, President and CEO of Silver Valley Metals. after going after Hecla here, been going for 130 years. We just closed our deal 2 months ago. So just renamed the company, and we're just starting up right now. I think it's a very exciting opportunity. We're more the explorer than the miner, although we have 5 historic mines on the project. It's located, the project is located on the border of Bunker Hill on one side and to the Page mine on the other side. It's a unique opportunity, I think, because this project, for extenuating circumstances, have more or less been dormant for 80 years. One of the mines on the property, called the Blackhawk mine, was a lease mine for the Page for 21 years. And then when the Page optimized their mill and their mine, they didn't need the Blackhawk any further. So that mine's down to 1,200 foot elevation. The other 4 mines, of which we have an underground database for, which is very valuable for us, have only been mined down to the 200 foot elevation. So we see a lot of upside, a lot of potential. We have a team on the ground right now. We're doing 3 geophysical surveys and field work, and we plan to integrate all of this into our model and hope to be drilling for the first time on this project early in 2022.
Very good. Well, all short and sweet, and thank you. And of course, we've got about a half hour, so this is for you guys. So come with your questions for any of them. I will start off with a few. I'm going to pick on Hecla first. I think Hecla was the second mining stock I ever bought. But so one thing that impressed me about Hecla is your visionary thinking about mining. And to my knowledge, and I'm fairly knowledgeable about mining, you have done like the robotics and looking forward and safety and that kind of thing. So could you comment on where you are presently and where the rest of the industry is and where you see it going in the future?
Yeah, as it relates to, call it automation or technology, certainly in the past few years we've implemented various technologies. At Casa Berardi, for example, we have automated haulage. We have a drift that's essentially able to be between the mining area and the shaft that we can kind of sequester away that no folks are in that area. We have haul trucks that can just run autonomously between them without any intervention of humans. And they run essentially faster than a human can drive it, plus more consistent, so the maintenance is less. You don't run into the mine walls, et cetera. The shaft is automated. We also do some automated drilling at Casa. We do some remote mucking at Greens Creek. One thing that's been interesting is, say, ventilation on demand, right? Ventilation costs can be expensive, so you can ventilate the mine in the areas where folks work. Those types of things are things that we do. As we go into the future, I think you'll see more of the automation. I think that from that perspective, we'll move in that way. You'll likely see more things like the remote mucking that we do at Greens Creek, where in between shift change, which can be a kind of a downtime for the mine, where you blast and you've got to ventilate the gases, et cetera. Well, you can have a mucker working during that time, but you're working it from surface. You'll likely see more of that. The thing that does creates a lot of maybe conversation is battery power, right? And so there was just a week or two ago, there was the Mine Expo in Nevada, where and I actually didn't attend, but as I heard from colleagues that did attend, one of the big themes was battery powered equipment, and you'll likely see that continue to advance as we come along, which frankly for those of us that are the silver miners here, I think will be beneficial for the price of silver as you see all of these technologies advance, and the use of silver should increase as a result.
Thank you. I can pass it to Bunker Hill. Okay, now, does anyone have questions? Because this is really for you. So if you got a question, just get my attention and we'll take it. We talked about shallowest mine in the valley, which is a unique position. Can you elaborate on that, why that's important?
Yeah, it's important because, certainly it's one of these things of who knows how deep it goes, and not to say So for instance, Lucky Friday's down at 9,000 feet or so, and I think has much more to go. So it's really just a benchmark versus the neighbors. The fact that we're at 4,000, the fact that the mine stopped for environmental reasons, which have now been thankfully rehabilitated thanks to the 35 years that the EPA cleaned this thing up, which ended about 5 years ago. So going back down there, it's picking up where these guys left off and using some of these same technologies that we were just talking about that Hecla's been employing as well. So that's the exciting part, is that we're only down to 4,000 feet. We mined 160 million ounces of silver down to that level, and we believe there's at least that much in the next 4,000 feet. So it's one of these things where, you know, we've got 11 years of mine life in front of us, so why not get going, especially when you can make at these prices $30 million of free cash flow a year. And as we work our way down, we will certainly be delineating a lot of that exploration, the high-grade silver potential as we get lower. So that's why it's pretty exciting, is we've got 11 years in front of us as of now, and we're going to be doing much more as we get deeper.
Great, thank you. Go ahead and pass it to John. All right, John, what's a good question to ask you?
Let's see.
I've got one, but if it's no good, make up your
We'll
own.
go for it. I'll answer what I want to.
The milling, you know, I think that New Jersey's kind of one of these steady eddies, and sometimes people get too big. I think what I admire the most, there's several things, but I'm going to pick one. It would be steady eddy growth, not getting ahead of yourself, not getting too big, just kind of letting what you could feed through the mill make you money consistently. And I think that's something that most people don't appreciate enough. Can you comment there?
Yeah, I think we call it a kind of aim small, miss small strategy. We really take the approach of listening to the business. I've been around the industry for a while. I mean, you know, kind of to each his own, but you know, I've liked the golden chest since I was in junior high, and I've been a New Jersey shareholder before I was part of management since 2001. So I knew the assets, I knew the property, I knew the Brackenbushes, and when Fred wanted to retire, I came in. But, you know, I came in from the business standpoint. So to me, I love exploration. I love real estate. I like gold. I like hard assets. But you got to have a business. And to me, we got to build the business first, which meant we had to build an operating mine, which meant it was the 1 out of 10,000 chance of success of doing it. And we kind of had to, you know, get the band back together and a lot of good folks. I mean, if you can't depend on your folks to start small, then you're just not going to make it. And the mill, our New Jersey mill, actually allowed us the luxury of starting small. We didn't have that CapEx in the beginning. The New Jersey mill is a phenomenal mill. We have people coming from all over the world to look at what Fred and Grant built and the paste tailing system. We're looking at building a larger version of that mill up at the Golden Chest, and we're looking at going to somewhere between 20 to 25,000 ounces a year in gold production up there. And one thing I'll add, even though you didn't ask this, is yes, we are uplisting to the NYSE Amex here within about 60 days.
Cool.
And we're changing our name now to Idaho Strategic Resources.
Oh, there you go.
Thanks for asking.
Of course. My ESPN's working. Go ahead all the way to the end. I'm going to pick on you, and hopefully you got broad enough shoulders to take it. Well, the thing is that once this sector really takes off, and this is from pretty fair amount of experience, anything with gold and silver in its name is going to go. So there could be what we refer to in the industry as moose pasture, and it's going to fly. And especially for people that are unsophisticated, which even with the internet, you think that might not be the case. Believe me, most investing is psychology and emotion. It is not math. I always thought I could beat the market with math. I found out pretty early I was wrong. So that's why I had to figure out what really moves markets. So the idea being that people that miss the boat and see silver going through, I'll use the number $50 an ounce, will look for whatever cheap stock they can find that is related to gold and silver. And just be aware of that. I may do it in my report. I've got the URL Silver Speculator, and I'm thinking about, for a brief period of time, just saying, okay, and put the rules in, 20 fonts. No one cannot read it, and just say, this is how you play the end of the cycle. Having said all of that, sometimes just, even though that 1 out of 10,000 that John just mentioned, so thanks for the setup, could be phenomenal. Since you've got more than one property, why don't you outline why that's a superior way to approach a exploration situation than just going for one?
Well, we have actually just one property.
Okay.
Right?
That's all
No,
right.
but
I've had egg on my face before, sorry.
No. But we actually do have two properties.
Okay.
The company previous to this was a company called Organomax Nutrient Corporation. It sounds like a farm. It is kind of. It's a lithium and potash project in Mexico.
Okay.
And I came into this company a little over a year ago, and it was more of a restructure, and I've consolidated things, brought in new shareholders, new management directors, and brought that asset up to, I think, where it is a saleable asset now, and there's other things behind that. So there's an asset there, but the focus was on precious metals, and I was evaluating projects really all over the world, and certainly, jurisdiction is very important, as you, of course, know. This area in the Silver Valley for me, I've been coming up here for several years now, hunting around and looking. And for me, it's just a phenomenal opportunity and a place that has been overlooked for decades, really, because of the Superfund and so on. So this project, and I think it's such a unique opportunity that it was in the box, it was in the Superfund site for 40 years. Previous to that, I had talked about mining at one of the mines that was feeding ore to the Page and so on. But then that halted after World War II, and there were claim boundary issues between the old Bunker Hill and Asarco, who had Page, and so essentially this just sat dormant. And then this project went into the EPA trust, and it came out as an auction. And it was purchased by some gentleman out of the Silver Valley. And, me hunting around the Silver Valley for a while, I found them. And so I look at this project as exploration for sure, because there's never been any modern exploration done on the project, geophysics, et cetera. But we have an underground mining database. So we have something to work from. We understand the lithology and some of the structures and the faults, and thanks to Bunker Hill today, right here, it's been a really nice relationship where we've been able to share some things, and it's given real light to the project, and in the Silver Valley, as you know, it's maybe a 20-kilometer, 25-kilometer straight line where it's one mine after another. So it's very difficult to find something that's like this, or it is next to impossible, actually. So this opportunity, so I don't know if I'm answering your question right now, but I think there's a lot to this than moose pasture.
Okay. We'll go back to the CFO from Hecla. So, Phil used to pass out a sheet at the conferences like this of, I think it was someone standing by an automobile or something, and had all these uses for silver. And I know at your level, you're looking, you have to make some sort of a stab, and I won't put words in your mouth, at, what the future price of silver looks like. So this is always so much fun for me, because I get to ask you the question I get asked 100 times a day. I'm exaggerating, but what do you see for the silver price going out 5 years? And I'm going to preface it with another thing. The reason I brought up what Phil used to pass out is because I just did an interview with this guy, Matt Watson. I was introduced by the Silver Institute. He's claiming on his research that the industrial side of silver is going to be about 80% of the market by 2030. So what's Hecla see in the future?
Well, I would say, I think I probably won't try to pick a price.
That's fine.
But what I do
You're smarter
think,
than me, thank you.
as we see the silver market there, you kind of see it bifurcated in two ways, right? You have the precious side and you have the industrial side. So if you start with the precious side, you kind of have a lot of fiscal and monetary stimulus out there right now. I think that's a nice tailwind to it, but you also have rates that are extremely low, right? So rates, if you look at real rates, they probably have one way to go, probably up. So from the precious side of it, it's a positive story. I think maybe the price is probably muted a little bit as a result of the rates, and maybe it's even a bit overdone. But I think really the catalyst as silver goes is on the industrial side. So if you think about uses of silver and you think about what's kind of going on right now in the economy, whether it's the world economy or just the U.S. economy, you're really going toward renewable energies. And we have in our slide deck a slide that shows from the U.S. Energy Administration their projection of power generation, all right, and where that's going to come from. And you see a significant increase as it goes to solar and to wind turbines, essentially. And photovoltaic cells use silver, wind turbines and the brushes use silver. Also, electric vehicles use silver, right? And it's as you think about electric vehicles, essentially all of the connections within that use silver. And so as you see that happen and you see administrative policies, like governmental policies that kind of push this type of thing, that's going to be, in my mind, a very strong tailwind to silver. So when you take both of those together, I think silver has a very bright future. We're very bullish on silver.
Good. Bunker, what would you want to say to the audience without me prompting you anything? If you got whatever minutes, just.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think the Bunkers, it's sort of a two-part story in a way. We have phenomenal silver potential, and that's demonstrated by the 100 years of production where we produce over 160 million ounces, and we're the shallowest, as we just discussed. But I think one thing that people, don't quite understand about Bunker is it does have the exploration potential, but this thing is ready to go back into production, and we're serious about it. And so the exciting thing for us is that we do see that valuation re-rate happening over the next couple of years here as we actually execute on these plans. And we've got the team in place to actually do it as well. So those of you not familiar, we got a brand new team about 18 months ago that effectively parachuted in from Barrick. So Richard Williams, our executive chairman, who was the chief operating officer of Barrick, doubled their operating margin over his 5-year tenure there while metal prices were going down. He's come in to be an executive chairman. He's brought with him Sam Ash, my boss, the CEO, who's a brilliant operator, was operating Barrick's largest scale mine in Africa, and Brad Barnett, who was in charge of Barrick's global closure portfolio. And I'd like to think I'm not too bad myself as the CFO, but certainly the guys on the ground driving that restart. There's at a lot of companies, you see a transition, as you move from an explorer to a developer to a producer, where sometimes, management teams need to sort of transition into those skill sets. And with us, we've got the team in place, we've got the asset in place, and that's really what we think is a pretty unique opportunity for investors, not only to get the silver exploration potential, but to get the near-term production re-rate potential as well. So kind of tooted my own horn a bit there, but that's probably in answer to the question of what I'd like the audience to consider would be probably those two aspects.
Great. Go ahead. Thank you. I might not have this right. I did it one time, but so people that buy money managers that work in this industry are restricted, or were. I'm not sure, John may straighten me out, that they couldn't buy certain stocks because of a price barrier. In other words, the authorities wanted to make sure that if you're managing money that you had to meet a certain criteria. Sometimes it had to do with where the company was listed, and sometimes it had to do with price, and sometimes it had to do with both. So can you speak to that a little bit since you're getting relisted?
Yeah, sure. So, over time, when a company, because I've also been an investor myself, when a company would say that they were going to do a reverse split in order to uplist, or reverse split to recapitalize to save themselves, 99.9% of the time it was viewed negatively. And so as a longtime investor and the largest shareholder of New Jersey and the guy that bought all of his own shares, I didn't want to do a reverse split at all for those reasons. I kind of feel it's un-American to actually judge a company by its share price, kind of like judging a car by its weight. I just don't think, not all companies are equal. Not all share structures are equal. However, this is the one time in my career, and I actually have this quote in our last press release where we have a lot of money managers that own our shares individually but cannot put their clients into it. And I've had a couple of wealth management guys say, look, I have stuff in my clients' portfolios. They are demanding exposure to hard assets. You are 10 times better than them, but I can't buy your stock. One, because you're not listed on a higher exchange, we're on the bulletin board, or share price, or like David said, both. And this is the one time where it made sense to do a reverse split and actually get uplisted. And I will tell you that the uplisting process for us, having operations and being established, has actually gone relatively smooth. So one thing I will say too about you were talking about the price of silver. I'll go back to the kind of the price of gold, even though I'm probably one of the world's first original silver bucks. But you know, when we started, when Grant and I decided to jump in whole hog into New Jersey and get going, silver or gold was at 1080. And so we, you know, the philosophy we had was you build good companies in bad times. You don't ever want to go try to build a company as these prices are spiking. So that's the thing. If I, as an investor looking at it, look at the guys who've been out there busting their butts as you're building and getting to this stage. And we haven't spiked by any means in these commodities, but that's really the way we looked at it, kind of. So we weren't, like, and I was telling a couple of folks here today, I don't want to see the world that has $10,000 gold. You know, we want to see, you just really want to see nice, steady improvement in silver and gold prices, and everybody has jobs and everybody does well. So there's kind of a give and take there.
Okay.
Or I guess.
I'll go all the way down. So can I get some help here? I think, Rob, we've got 10 more minutes on this panel? Okay. So I'm not gonna be real strict on the time, so I'll just leave it to you guys, whatever you want to convey to the audience. And believe me, you know, if you want to ask a question, now is the time. We've got 10 minutes left, and, you know, I'm just gonna throw real general. Well, there's one. Go ahead.
I am curious what kind of pushback you guys get either from the state or communities as far as contaminants that could potentially, you know, cause harm to residents, or, I mean, is that a thing that you guys deal with?
So she's asking, what kind of pushback do you get on the environmental concerns?
So this goes back to a little bit of our approach. So our mill is a zero discharge mill, which means we don't actually discharge water to the waters of the United States. So we actually recirculate all of our water. And our mill is actually has a number of awards from the DEQ. So it's actually recognized for water conservation. And we focused on that a long, long time ago. The other way we look at this is that we all live here. So we're the ones that are going to take care of the forests. We're the ones, our kids are living here, grandkids, parents, you know, everybody. So we take very serious what we do on a daily basis. Everybody goes home at night. We have, like I said earlier, we have a lot of families that work for us. We take a totally different kind of look at the ESG side of this. We have kind of a we live here approach. And I know these guys all do a great job, the bunker guys. We really like them a lot. And Hecla has obviously won a ton of awards for what they've done. So I think, I don't want to speak for everybody, but one thing about the Silver Valley is I'd rather be in this stage of the Superfund and that stigma than at the other end of it back in the beginning. Now you know what you have, and we can make business decisions off of that.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of what you just said there, John. I mean, and that's a great question. It's interesting because we have had, I wouldn't call it necessarily pushback, but there is this sort of lingering negative perception when you say Bunker Hill. But I can tell you that negative perception is not coming from Idaho. It's from people that, you know, just know it from back in the day. So it's actually been quite a marked contrast that when you look, whether it be in Kellogg itself or Shoshone County or here in Coeur d'Alene, people are very supportive. I mean, we're talking about one of the most impoverished counties in the United States here, which is you know, quite tragic what happened in terms of the economic decimation over the decades. And so, you know, through bringing over 200 high-paying jobs back into the economy, which is our plan here, it's going to have put a very big dent in the unemployment rate, which we're pretty excited about. And in terms of the environmental piece of things, you know, this is part of the reason why the EPA and ourselves have such a good relationship, because we've actually improved the quality of the water. So Bunker Hill will always have acid mine drainage coming out of it, forever, in perpetuity. So would you rather have somebody there like ourselves who are experts at managing this, and it's very normal course for us. I mean, the water is treated as it comes out, and we're partners with the EPA in getting that treated, or would you rather go back to the old days? And so, you know, we've come in, and what used to be a negative we've turned it into a positive, and so that's you know, we really take a lot of pride in that. So I don't know if you guys want to add anything.
Maybe just to echo a little bit about what these gentlemen have said is that, you know, one thing is that as you look at the companies that are kind of represented here, we represent the communities that we live and work in, right? So essentially you take care of the communities, right? That is you are the community. We're, a 130-year-old company, so we've gone through all of the history of it. And as a result, you just work through those processes. I think at this point, kind of talking about the investment that you make in all of the, the water treatment and all those things are just run-of-the-mill things at this point, frankly.
I guess I could talk to this briefly, but just being an exploration company and going through the process, this project that we have obtained actually came out of the EPA trust. So it went through the whole process in the Superfund and essentially was cleared of any of those environmental liabilities. We have done an environmental site assessment in our due diligence, and everything is good. And from our understanding, we have a new baseline that we're working from. So that's about all I can add, I guess, to that.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, I've got one there. Sure.
Yeah, just David, on Bunker Hill, I heard what you said about the PEA, et cetera. How much is it going to cost you to get restarted up and running? And do you have that money in the bank, or what's the plan?
So I'm going to ask so everybody can hear it.
Oh, yeah.
So the question was on the preliminary economic assessment. You're pushing through there, and how much money have you got? What's your treasury look like? And basically, do you have enough to push this thing through?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that question. More than happy to answer that. So the CapEx, so the exciting thing is our NPV went up by 43%, costs went down by 33%, free cash flow went up by 41%, but the CapEx bill stayed the same between the old PEA and the new PEA. And just to refresh what those numbers are, we're talking about $44 million to restart the mine. And that may seem like a woefully small number, but we're talking about 100 years worth of development and infrastructure that we're inheriting here, which is what makes it so cheap. So the majority, which comes to the environmental question as well, of the 44 million is actually to process and install a plant underground, which is a very elegant solution to not only solving the genesis point of the acid mine drainage in terms of the tailings deposition, but has no surface disturbance, which actually quite elegantly leads into why we can restart so quickly, because we don't need, in a traditional sense, an operating permit to get up and running, given that we're on 100% private ground with 100% patented mining claims. So it all sort of ties together in terms of the positive ESG impact, the low capital, solving the environmental problem. To your question on, the last part of your question was the money in the bank. We do not have the money in the bank, and that's what I've been working hard on for the last 5 months. So we started a project finance process back in April, working with one of the top global mining finance advisors to try to bring in the money that we need to restart the mine. And crucially, we are focused on that, the majority of that capital not coming from equity. So when we say not from equity, what do I mean? Obviously, debt is an obvious one. Private equity, offtake debt, royalties, streams, combination thereof. Basically, what I'm looking to do and what the team's looking to do is find the project finance package that will restart this mine in the lowest, the least dilutive manner and at the lowest cost of capital. And so our view is that the market, one of our interpretations of our share price in the market right now is that we're going to announce a huge equity raise here to raise that money, and that's absolutely not the case. So what we're excited to potentially put out here in the next couple months is an announcement about securing most of that finance without diluting shareholders. So that's the plan.
All right, I think I'll wrap it up. We've got about 2 minutes. Oh, yes, go ahead.
I was wondering if the New Jersey gentleman could talk a little bit more about the rare earth.
Oh, good, excellent.
Rare earth elements and how soon you're going to begin mining those and what the impact, environmental impact would be to the salmon area. If you guys are talking about that.
Questions about rare earth elements and what impact it might have environmental.
So one thing to keep in mind on our rare earth element projects, so our Diamond Creek property was actually discovered by the Department of Energy and the USGS back in the 50s and 60s when they were looking at thorium as a replacement for uranium. So right now, we're actually using a lot of the government's own data and information on evaluating our own projects. So when we're talking to Senator Risch's office or Senator Crapo's office, one of the talks that it's easier to have because we're using a lot of the same numbers. So we're not like proving ourselves to them. One of the things that we've run into and that we utilize to our benefit is our track record with our mill and our operating record. Now that really helps us a lot as far as the credibility. As far as mining the rare earths, we're a ways away from that. I mean, this is still exploration. I have no doubt in my mind we can mine anything. I mean, we have that kind of a team. We can explore. We have our own drills. We designed and built our own mill. Like, we can do all of that. But that's a little bit of the cart before the horse. Like, when we get there to that stage, and I'm actually pretty confident we will, that'll be down the line a ways. But right now, we're looking at a 10-hole drill program next summer on our Diamond Creek property. And we're going to work on advancing, the less the feasibility of that project. One thing we have going right now, though, that's also interesting is we're part of the Earth MRI program. And that's one of these things where I always tell everybody, like, the government's kind of ringing a bell here for all of us and saying, look, we're seeking out public-private partnerships. And so this is one of the first times for decades that they've come out and said, we want to do a lot of the initial exploration base building work for you guys, for private industry to then come and build off of and advance these projects for these communities. And we were asked by the state of Idaho to actually join in to that program, which is really, I mean, we think it's really big. You go back not that long ago and good luck finding a government agency is going to say, we want to give you money to go explore on public land. I mean, that just doesn't happen. As far as environmental concerns and a lot of that stuff, we will tackle that when we get to it. We're going to hit it with the same kind of diligence that we hit everything. And the same with everybody. I mean, really, mining is, as long as the goalposts are where they are, mining can be a good business in the United States. It's moving them around. Like, a lot of times when we move the goalpost too much for us from the environmental side, we're not stopping mining. We're just shifting it off to another country who has no regulations whatsoever. I would rather keep it here, regulate the heck out of it, but let's know where the goalposts are. Let's do it here. And right now on the rare earth side, China supplies 99% of the rare earths in the world. Our politicians didn't do us any favors as citizens of the country by letting us get into that situation. I think they're a little bit scared. If you ask me my opinion when I've talked to them, I think they're a little concerned. I think the Navy's a little concerned. I think the Air Force is actually a little concerned. And so therefore, they're trying to help us by partnering to go out and advance these things. So environmental stuff, absolutely 10 times out of 10, we're going to focus on that. If we can't do it right, we're not going to do it. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not doing this because I'm trying to get rich out of it. And nobody in our business wants to be that guy. We just won't do it.
And so as an investor, if we wanted to invest in the rare earth metals rather than, I know this is so impressive, but I'm still going to keep going back to this because I'm really interested and I have people who want to invest in lithium and we work for the Department of Energy, so we're into uraniums and all of those isms,
Yeah.
So is there a way that we can invest in just that part or investing in you generally would be included?
It would right now, it would be included in that. And I think, even looking at some established firms, companies, they might actually have rare earth elements within their deposits that may come online as things advance. But as far as New Jersey goes, it's a two-pronged approach. We have basically, I call it a common denominator approach, which I might have mentioned earlier. We've got gold and real estate as a store of value in sort of a depreciating currency type environment or fiat currency environment. And then on the other side, I don't know what cars we're going to drive or magnets we're going to make or whatever, but I'm pretty certain we're going to be doing it, and I'm pretty certain they're going to get made. We're looking at supplying the raw materials for that. And so that's kind of our niche and where we're going to stay. And we like staying small and growing organically. Now, that's not to say that down the line, would we spin out the rare earths or something like that someday? Yeah, it's a business. If the shareholders want that, then we'll figure that out. So we're kind of open to everything. But right now, it'd be really hard to just give you somebody money for one part of their family.
All right, we're pretty much out of time. I will help you out. I don't usually give my stock picks out for free. That's how I make a living. But if you go to Energy Fuels, it's been on my list for a long time. They are a uranium company with really good rare earth element component. So consider it a gift from me to you. Okay. All right, guys, you're good?